I don't remember the last time I saw sunlight. It must have been weeks ago, or maybe even months. Darkness has blanketed Tokyo ever since those creatures appeared. But what's scarier than the darkness is the silence. I'm hiding in an old room of an abandoned hotel. The glass windows shattered, dry bloodstains scattered everywhere. Every rule for surviving a zombie apocalypse. I remember them in detail, but none of those rules prepared me for what's coming. Rule 1. Never move after dark. Night in Tokyo is no longer just the absence of light. Every shadow, every hidden corner holds deadly danger. From the room, I can hear the shuffling of zombies lurking outside. They're sharp, as if even a single breath would alert them. Rule 2. Always stay silent. I hold my breath, my heart pounding as if it's about to burst out of my chest. The growling. It's getting closer, as if they've already caught my scent. I grip the dagger tighter, my hand drenched in sweat. If they find me, it's over. Rule 3. Trust no one. At some point, I became a loner. Friends, family, they're all gone or worse. They've turned into one of them. I've met others, but trust doesn't exist anymore. I crouch low to the floor, trying to peer through the crack. A large figure moves outside. Not one of them, it's a person. Or at least I think it is. I'm not sure if it's a survivor or just bait to lure me out. Rule 4. Always move, but never run. I learned this the hard way. Running attracts attention, makes noise, and gets you noticed. Every step has to be measured, every movement as light as a breeze. My shoes are worn down, but I don't dare take them off. The figure outside stops at the window, and I hear a soft knock. Just a knock, not the loud banging of the undead. I draw the knife, trying to steady myself. Whoever it is out there, my survival depends on what I decide next. The soft knocking echoed again, steady, unhurried, as if the person outside wasn't afraid of the zombies. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my chest. This small room was a temporary hiding place, but it wouldn't stay safe forever. I had to make a decision. The figure standing silently outside was like a dangerous invitation. Rule 5. Be cautious of every sound. I held my breath, straining to hear if there were other footsteps. He might not be alone. Sometimes other survivors moved in groups, or worse. Some have started using zombies as tools. A light scratching sound came from the window. A chill ran down my spine. I slowly raised my head to peek through a crack in the window. The figure was still there, motionless. Definitely not a zombie, at least I was fairly sure. But perhaps he wasn't fully human anymore. Rule 6. Always prepare for the worst. I tightened my grip on the knife, inching closer to the door. In just a few seconds, my mind raced with thoughts. If I open the door and it's a trap, I'm dead. If I don't, I might miss a chance to find another survivor, but solitude might be the only real safety. I knew that even if the person outside was an ally, every alliance in this era was fragile. When resources run out, everyone becomes an enemy. The knock came again, this time a little louder. The figure leaned down, peering through the crack in the glass. Eyes. Human eyes, but there was something cold, empty in them. I stepped back. Rule 7. Stay away from people who are too calm. When people face death, they panic, they fear, they break. But when someone is too calm, something is wrong. The person outside showed no emotion. His eyes didn't reflect any fear. That's what chilled me more than facing the undead. Maybe he wasn't afraid because he had already lost his humanity. Suddenly, he whispered, "Open the door. I won't hurt you." The words seemed to echo in the stillness, as if all of Tokyo had been reduced to just the two of us. I didn't respond, remaining silent in the darkness, hoping he would leave. Rule 8. If you have doubt, don't open the door. The silence stretched on. I could hear his steady breathing through the crack, as if he knew I was listening. A shiver ran down my spine. I wanted to believe him, but the way he stood there, as if he knew I would open the door, sent a chill through me. I turned around, quickly gathering the essentials: knife, water, a bit of food. I was leaving. This wasn't a safe place anymore. I moved towards the other door, trying not to make a sound. But just as I lifted my foot, a faint moan came from the hallway. I froze. Not him, something else. Rule 9. Never leave without checking your surroundings. I crouched low, peeking through the crack of the bedroom door. Outside was a long, dark corridor littered with debris, and a shadow slowly dragging itself toward me. It moved sluggishly, but each step felt like time was stretching out into a nightmare. The weak moaning only heightened my anxiety. I glanced back at the window. The man was still there, his eyes locked on mine through the crack. No, I wasn't facing just one threat. I was trapped between two forces: a mysterious man and a deadly creature outside. I heard scratching sounds from the hallway. The zombies moved slowly, but they never stopped. Time was running out. One wrong decision, and I'd be their next meal. I took a deep breath, stepping quietly toward another window in the room, one that was still intact. I had to escape before they broke through the door. The man outside remained motionless, seemingly indifferent to whether I opened the door or not. That only fueled my suspicions. He didn't move, didn't try to come in, he just stood there, as if waiting for something else. The zombies' moans grew closer. I glanced through the crack in the door, their shapes becoming visible in the dim light from outside. I couldn't wait any longer. I opened the window. Cold air rushed in, carrying the stench of death. I climbed out, my foot barely touching the roof below when a loud crash came from the door. They were here. The old door groaned, ready to give way at any moment. I didn't look back, trying to keep my balance on the rooftop. But just as I lowered my foot, a cold hand clamped around my ankle. I gasped, losing my balance, and fell. My vision blurred, heart pounding in my chest, as I saw him, the man gripping my leg. He didn't say a word, his empty eyes now closer than ever. He pulled me back, a strange strength in his arm rendering me helpless. I swung my knife, slashing at his hand. Blood sprayed, but he didn't let go. I rolled, kicking him away, but then I heard the door crash open. The zombies swarmed in, rushing toward the window. I scrambled to my feet, running along the edge of the roof, too afraid to look back. But I could feel his gaze on me, still watching, as if he had already gotten what he wanted. A cold smile flickered across his face, just before the darkness swallowed him whole. I sprinted along the edge of the rooftop, trying to keep my balance. Below was a dark, empty street, with nothing but the dead shuffling in the shadows. The moaning of the zombies echoed all around, as if they knew I was above them. I came to a halt at the edge of a gap between two buildings. There was no way out, but I couldn't turn back. Behind me, I could hear the zombies' footsteps on the roof. They were getting closer. With no other choice, I stepped back, then sprinted forward, leaping across the gap. Time seemed to freeze in that moment. The wind roared in my ears, and then I hit the other roof, rolling to absorb the impact. There was no time to stop and catch my breath. The scratching and moaning of the zombies were still right behind me. The thought of that man's eyes still following me sent a chill down my spine, but there was no time to dwell on it. I had to keep moving. I rushed down the staircase leading inside the new building. Inside, it was pitch black, no electricity, but at least it would temporarily shield me from the undead. I fumbled in the darkness, tripping over broken tiles and toppled furniture. Suddenly, a faint noise came from behind me. I froze, holding my breath. Listening carefully, I realized there was the sound of breathing. It wasn't mine. Someone, or something, was very close. The soft breathing grew louder, closer. I spun around, dagger in hand, eyes locked on the darkness in front of me. The entire room felt like it was holding its breath. No footsteps, no movement. Just the sound of my heart pounding in my chest. 1 step, 2 steps. I backed away slowly but steadily. The darkness was swallowing everything around me, but I knew I wasn't alone here. That breathing hadn't disappeared. It was still there, quiet, steady, as if someone was watching, lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, a hand clamped down on my shoulder from behind. I spun around, swinging the knife instinctively. The blade sank into something warm and soft. A dry, rasping scream echoed through the dark room. I pulled the knife out, stumbling back, feeling my entire body trembling. In front of me, a man collapsed onto the floor, his eyes wide and staring at the ceiling. Blood poured from the wound in his chest. But he wasn't a zombie. He was alive. A living person. I froze for a moment, my mind reeling. His breathing stopped. There was no time to think. I bolted toward the window at the far end of the room, where faint light seeped in from outside. But before I could reach it, the door burst open. A flashlight beamed directly into my eyes, blinding me. I squinted, but I could still make out the shapes of 2 people stepping into the room. They wore protective gear, armed with guns. One of them stepped closer, his gaze falling to the dead man at my feet. "You killed him?" I stood still, gripping the blood-stained knife. They didn't wait for an answer. One of them raised his gun, pointing it directly at my head. Click. I only heard the sound of the safety being released before everything went black. I jolted awake, my head throbbing painfully. The room was dimly lit, the only light coming from the flickering red control panel on the wall. My hands were cuffed to a cold metal chair. Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. They were coming. They knew I was here. I struggled against the cuffs, trying desperately to free myself. They were too tight. My breath quickened as my mind raced, searching for a way out. The footsteps grew louder. A shadow passed by the door. The man barely had time to react before I lunged at him, a cornered animal fighting for its life. The small knife I kept hidden in my shoe was already in my hand, and I drove it straight into his neck. He crumpled to the floor without a sound. I staggered out of the room, the blaring alarm now filling the air. Red lights flashed along the hallway, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I could hear the distant moans of zombies, but even more terrifying was the sound of human footsteps. They knew I had escaped. I sprinted down the long hallway, too afraid to look back. Screams echoed from every direction. Doors burst open, and zombies charged out. Gritting my teeth, I made a sharp right into a stairwell. Up or down? The pounding from above gave me the answer. I bolted down the spiral staircase, the sound of the pursuing zombies growing closer with every second. The narrow stairs and the strobe-like lighting made everything more disorienting, more horrifying. Suddenly, a high-pitched screech came from right behind me. I turned. One of the zombies had squeezed through a door and was lunging straight at me. Its mouth gapped open, drool spilling out. I lost my footing and tumbled down the stairs, my head slamming against the cold concrete. Dizzy, but I couldn't stop. The zombie threw itself down the stairs after me, crazed. I kicked hard at its head, sending it tumbling down, its body twisting grotesquely like a broken puppet. No time to stop. I scrambled back to my feet and kept running. The screeching, the footsteps, the chaos behind me all blended into a nightmarish symphony as I raced for my life. The final exit door appeared in front of me, but I knew I only had seconds left. I threw myself at the door. A gust of cold air hit me as I stepped outside. The rooftop. But there, standing before me, was him. The mysterious man with the empty eyes. He was still there, watching me with that same cold, unfeeling gaze. A twisted smile curled on his lips. There was nowhere left to run.